Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the third session in this Power Based series. So, I'll start with the agenda. The agenda of this session is to explore the connectors and different connectivity modes available in Power BI. And the first topic is introduction to different connectors or sources. And the second one is connectivity modes. And this is going to be part one. Okay. And after that, we will be exploring the differences between different connectors, import versus direct query versus live connection. And fourth one is demonstrating connection to various data sources. We will try to connect at least 4 to 5 sources and walk you through how you can connect to different sources. Okay, so it's going to be a very quick session. So let's move to the first one. So, introduction to different connectors or sources. What do you mean by source? Okay. So, before I jump into the sources or connectors, let me tell you a simple story. Let's move the time frame back to 2009. Okay. There are two friends, A and B. So, one day A would want to watch Harry Potter. So, he reached out his friend asking for a DVD, right? So his friend he gave him the DVD, and A went and he watched the Harry Potter movie. Okay, let's come now in 2024. A again want to watch Harry Potter, so he reached out B. He asked for the DVD, right? He said he don't have it, but he gave his Amazon Prime credentials. Okay, and he asked him to go and watch that in Amazon Prime. He gave him the login ID and password, right? So in 2009, the same friend B gave him a CD, and he gave him a login ID and password. And A went and he watched the movie, right? If you think Harry Potter is a source, Harry Potter is a content that A wanna consume. From where he watched the movie, from where he watched the content. In 2009, he watched from DVD, and in 2024, he watched from Amazon Prime. So, if Harry Potter is a content or data in a Power BI language, if you want to connect to a data, you need a source, right? Source is where your data lies, right? Source is where your data lies, where your data is, right? In this case, if Harry Potter is a content and DVD is source, right? Amazon Prime is source, right? So how did you connect to this? How did you connect to your source, this one, and get the data, which is watched your movie, right? Earlier you connected to DVD. You have to get the physical copy of it, right? You got your DVD, you'll put in your DVD machine and you watch the movie, right? In Amazon Prime, you just log in. You just got the password, you enter the user ID, you enter the password, and you watch the movie. What's the difference? Based on the source, right? The way you are accessing the content has changed. For in 2009, you need a physical copy of DVD because it's a different source. Amazon Prime, because it is hosting on it is hosting in a different place. You just need login ID and password so that you can connect to Amazon Prime and watch the movie, right? Same happens with the sources. So there are varieties of sources. For few sources, you would need them physically data. Physical data. Physical data means, I mean, it could be a file, it could be a Excel, It could be a CSV, right, etc. So if you wanna get the data from Excel CSV, you have to get the file first. You should ask your client or user and get that file and then import it. In yesterday's session, in session 2, we have seen this, right? We have loaded the Excel. We got the Excel and we loaded it into our Power BI. In the second case, you no need to get the data. You should have some credentials where you can data will be hosting somewhere else, but you can connect to that. You can connect to that. I'm sorry. So you can connect to that and you can get the data, right? Data host somewhere. No need of no need to have in a file or something, right? You no need to have it physically. You no need to have in a file. So one example is a SQL servers. All the SQL server, wherever your data hosts, right? You just go and connect it. What you need the server ID, username, password, right? That's it. So if you come to Power BI, there are different connectors available. So you can see here, right? Yesterday we talked about lots of things, and one of them is this. If you see the top ribbon, we talked about this, which is a get data section, right? So today most of our discussion is gonna around this, how to get the data and what are the different connectors available, right? So let me show you what are the different connectors available. If you click on more, you see different sections here, right? So these are all, you see so many sources here. These all are available for you to connect directly. So if you go to file, there are Excel, CSV, XML, JSON, PDFs, Pocket files, right? And if you see databases, most almost every database is available here, right? So you can see SQL servers and all, but you don't see Azure SQL, right? Which is there in Azure platform and Microsoft Fabric, where Power BI is one of the I mean, out of all the tech stacks in Fabric, Power BI is one of them, right? For business intelligence. And you can see the semantic models, data marts, warehouses, lakehouse, right? KQL database and data flows, right? So this is where you connect to your app service and get the logs, right? So you see all the sources from Microsoft Fabric. And if you talk about Power Platform, Dataverse and CDS and Power BI data flows, right? And you have the data flows, normal data flows as well. And coming to Azure Tech Stack, it has everything from Azure Tech Stack, right? So starting from Azure SQL 2 and non-structured data like Cosmos DB and all. So you have everything. And if you talk about online services, so you might have known whatever you know, right? All the popular things, including LinkedIn. So you got everything, right? Yeah, and one of the popular sources is a SharePoint. And if you don't have the required one from your online thing, if you have the link, right, you can scrap it from web as well, if that website allows you. So this is a connector, web connector available, and I prefer to use web connector for SharePoint, few SharePoint files, because regular SharePoint connector throws some kind of errors at the time of refresh. So I used to prefer web connector, and some miscellaneous sources are here. So we can go one by one. It's not possible for us to explore everything, but I will try to walk you through at least 3 to 4 popular sources that people use regularly, and you can explore others in from Microsoft documentation. So they have a detailed documentation. You can go there and you can correlate the class discussion so that you will easily understand. And then you can go to any source. They have all the documentation ready in place, right? So that's the intro to connectors. So I hope you understand like what does a source mean, what is a connector mean, right? Now let's say SQL Server. Okay, let me try to get the data from one of the SQL Server. Mhm. right? Let me give you, this is the server ID, right? So when I try to give connect to that, it is asking import a direct query. What does it mean? So you you can get the data, but how you are gonna get the data, right? How you are gonna consume the data? That's the thing. For that, to connect to, so let me add a page. So how to connect to data? Let me tell you a simple story here again. So you wanna show your photos. You wanna save your photos or you wanna have your photos. Let's take three cases. One, so you have photos in your local machine, laptop or something, or your mobile too. You can have your photos in a OneDrive or Google Drive, a popular example, or Apple Cloud. And third one, you have a laminated photo album. So laminated photo album, in my sense, is the photos are fixed, right? You can't, like how earlier we used to do, like we can't take the photos out and keep in, right? It's not gonna work. The photos are laminated and they're binded, so you can't move any photo. You just have to carry the album, right? If you wanna show it to someone physically, right? So let's take these three cases. If you want to show your photo to someone, right, you can easily open your mobile and show it, right? You can easily carry it too. If you want to edit it, you can easily edit it, right? So I can just simply bring the picture and draw whatever I want, right? So it's that easy. So you can do anything when the photos are in your local, right? You can easily edit it, you can easily share it, and you can do all of these, right? If it's in Google Drive, so how do you connect to your Google Drive? You can't easily access it. You have to log into your Google Drive, right? And you should access the photos after you logging in. Can you access it easy? It depends on various variables like your internet speed, right? And the size of your Google Drive, right? So if it is more, you have to go and search and pick it, right? And you can arrange the photos, right? Here in local, you can arrange the photos in the folders or however you want. You can arrange here as well. You can arrange the photos, and if you want to edit it, you can't edit it here, right? You have to come out, you have to download or something, edit it and pick it. So there are some limitations here. If you want to edit it, you can't do, right? You can connect, how fast you can connect is based on your internet, blah blah blah, right? So there are different limitations here. And coming to this one, can you arrange the photos here? Of course, yes, but at the time of creating it, right? At the time of creating this, you can do whatever you want. You can place one first and second first. Once it is done, you can't do anything. You can't arrange. You can't rearrange, right? If you want to insert, you can't insert too. And if you want to carry, if you want to show it to someone, you have to carry it. There is no option. If you want to show them physically, right? If you want, you have to carry it. So there are lots of limitations. Can you edit this? Not at all, right? So lots of limitations, right? So assume these cases. What we are doing, we are getting our data into our local machines here, right? Which is a import. Here you are keeping all the data somewhere else in the cloud and you are connecting to the data. Same like if you keep your data somewhere and you are trying to connect to from there to your local machine, right? That's a direct query. You will directly send the queries and you will get the results. You don't get the physical data. Here you get the physical data. You will copy, you will take a snapshot of the data, or you take the copy of the data, right? Here you don't copy the data, you get the metadata. Metadata means the column names, right? And if you connect to the live connection, and here you connect to different tables, by the way, you'll connect to different tables. If you wanna bring only two tables, you'll be able to bring it out of 10 tables available. Here you can bring two tables, whatever you want. But here you connect to the models, not the tables. Okay, people always confuse between and this is called live connection. People always confuse with the language. So direct query and live connection. Direct query is something where your source gives you the results. Source is responsible to execute the results. Even in live connection, same source. It could be analysis service source. It could be Power BI dataset as well, right? It could be all this. The source is responsible for you to give the data, but in direct query, you connect to the model. You connect to the tables. In live connection, you connect to the models. You can't bring a single table. If you have a 10 tables, you have to bring all 10 tables. You have no option in live connection. Okay. And which one is fast, right? Where do you access your photos very quick? This one, right? It's very handy. And second would be this, right? You have it in a physical form, you can easily do that. And third will be this. How fast it is? As I said, if you want to access your photos, there are different parameters, right? Like different variables, like internet speed and all. Here also, the source is going to execute the things, right? It depends on the source performance. If a source is pretty fast, it will give you pretty fast results. If your source is slow, it will give the results very slow. And if you take direct query, if you have a Power BI report with a 10 visuals in it, right? So if you have a like a 6 visuals in it, each visual will send a query back to the source. Let's say your source is Azure SQL. It will send the source query to the source. It has to execute and it should send the results. Then it will show the chart. And same happens with this visual too, right? So every visual will send a query. And if you have slices, you will filter it, right? It will send additional filters. It will add a additional filter to each visual. Let's say you wanna get the count of sales. It sends some query like this. Okay, count of all the sales. Okay, and if you want to get the sales for only India, if you filter from your data only India, it will add a where condition, where country equal to India, right? Likewise, when you select India, every query will be added with a one filter because you want to get the data for India, right? So it will add India. So direct query, every visual will send a query and the conditions, the filtering conditions will add based on the filters we select. If you select multiple filters, it will add multiple where conditions to filter out the data. All right. So if you have more number of visuals, it will send more queries and the it will take more time, right? If one query executes in millisecond, it will take 10 for 10 queries, 10 into that milliseconds, right? So it's gonna be more, right? So that's a direct query. I hope you understand the difference between direct query and live connection. In live connection, you will connect to the models. In direct query, you connect to data sources like a relational database basis, right? RDBMSs, relational database management system. Okay. So if I ask you, why can't you connect to Excel in a direct query mode? Can we do that? We can't, right? Because Excel simply stores the data. Okay. It can't do any calculations. It has no computing capacity, right? No computing capacity with Excel. So you can just directly import mode. You can only connect to import mode. If the source is Excel, DQ and live connection is ruled out for you, right? So not every source is supported with all these three things. Based on the source, it will connect either one or two or many. If you take a import mode, Excel, CSV, they can only be connected in import mode. Any flat file, right? It can be only connected with a import mode. And direct query, if you have any relational database management systems which have some computing capacity and storage, they can connect, they are available in direct query. One good example is SQL servers and Snowflake as well, right? Live connections is something where you connect to the models, which means your model should be pre-built, right? If you have a pre-built model, then only you will be able to connect. And you have very limited sources here. You have Azure Analysis Services or regular analysis services, right? Where you have your MDX, multidimensional cubes or tabular cubes, or your Power BI datasets as well. If you remember last session, we have modeled the data and we published it, right? I showed you two options in when we published it. There were two options like import and direct query. Let me switch back and show you. Okay, so if you remember this, this is the report that we published yesterday. And if you see here, it published two things. One is a data set, right? And the second one is this is the data set we published. And if you see here, it's a semantic model, which means it's a model data, right? All these data sets are pre-modeled before we published, right? So it's a pre-model data. So you can connect these kind of sources in live, right? So, and does live means really live data? Does live means, does it shows the real-time data? Of course, yes, but it depends on the source. If I connect to this data in live connection, right? Which data I can see? I can only see the data. Let me expand it. Okay, I can only see this data. 1 7, right? I can only see this data, which is refreshed at yesterday. Whatever the model has, we can see it in a live. So your model has to be refreshed. If I refresh it today, I can see today's data in my Power BI because I connected to this model in live connection. I can see the live data, whatever there in this model. If this model doesn't refresh every day, I don't see the live data. I'll just see whatever the data has in the pre-built model, right? But in, let me read it. Yeah. So you see the date, right? 1/7/24, 6:50, which is yesterday's date. So you can only see the yesterday's date. Yeah. So that's a live connection. And direct query, you get the real data because you don't have any data in your cache or your model is not going to cache any data. And whenever you query, it will send back to the source, right? Whatever there is available in that source, you see that data, right? If you connect to SQL, if your SQL is getting frequently updated, you see that data live, right? So that's direct query. I hope you understand it. The connected different connectivity modes. So these three are the popular modes, and there is one more connecting mode called a mixed mode, or people call it hybrid mode too. What does it mean? So you are gonna mix two. One is import and direct query. So you're gonna have some part of the data in import, some part of the data in direct query, and build your model. So whatever the data available in import mode, whatever the visuals that are gonna work on import mode, it will not send you. That will not send the queries back to the source. So you can limit few queries, right? Let's say if each query is taking 2 milliseconds, right? If six visuals takes 12 milliseconds to execute, if your three visuals are in import mode, three are in a direct query, it'll take 3 milliseconds, right? I mean, it will take if it 2 milliseconds and 3 by 6 milliseconds. You can cut down the half time by half time, but it has its own limitations. Like every every mode here has some limitations. Similarly, direct query, I mean, mixed mode also have some limitations. And to build a mixed mode, you would need to be aware of aggregate tables. Okay, you need to be aware of aggregate tables and few other concepts. How do you map these aggregate tables with dimension and facts, right? So that's why we hold that, and we are going to discuss in part two. So once you acquire some knowledge, it becomes easy to understand, right? If you go back to a 10th class and watch the videos, I mean, read the content, right? You feel it easy, but at that time you felt difficult. You could have felt difficult, right? If you acquire some knowledge, once you mature, once you understand better, right? So, I mean, once you get mature, right, you understand it better. So we hold it for part two. Maybe after in the middle of this series, we will bring it back and we explain you the mixed mode. Yeah, and it comes with lots of disadvantages though. Yeah, that's the quick comparison. And to add one last point, I'm gonna compare again in a table. But to add one last point, import mode is suggested by everything, everything. So whatever you take, so all the sources that are here, whatever the source that you see here, everything supports import mode. All the sources are supports import mode, right? And direct query is supported by all the sources that have some computing capacity. Live connection is supported by the pre-built models, right? As I covered. And one addition to this is in import mode, you can mix the sources. What does I mean? Let's say you got some data from Excel. You can add CSV here. Okay. You can get data from SQL Server here. You can mix many sources. You can get data from different sources when it is in import mode. And can you do in a direct query mode? Yes, you can do. You can have multiple sources in direct query mode too. But the problem is the source will responsible, right? So you can't mix the queries. Let's say, hmm, let's say there are two servers, A and B. Okay, A is from SQL, B is from Snowflake. Okay, I brought two tables from here, one and two, and I brought two tables from here for three and four. Right? I built some model with these four tables. Now, if I want to visualize one and three together, okay, it's not possible because source has to execute, right? They are two different sources. So all the tables that this source has, it doesn't have one and two, right? If we send a query with one information, how it's gonna do, right? Let's say if it has a country, if you send a country here, it doesn't have country, right? How it's gonna execute? It can't execute. So you have to be careful when you are building when you are using multiple connectors or multiple sources in direct query, you have to be mindful, right? Why you are bringing it and what you are going to do that, right? You have to be clear, and there is option to bring multiple sources to the direct query. Okay, that's one addition I would like to add. And we're going to we're going to walk through at the end in a demo where I'm going to connect live to SQL Server, and I'll try to import the data as well. Okay, so being that said, so let's move to the detailed comparison. So these are the features, these are the different attributes that I took on the left hand side, and I'm going to compare based on that between these three modes. As I said, data storage, you will get the copy of the data in import mode, right? So you're going to get the copy. Because of that, your file size increases, right? So if you are taking more data, if you are loading more data, it will automatically increase your file size. So wherever you publish, you should have that your premium capacity or your Power BI service should have that much capabilities to handle that volume of data. right? So if you import your data, your file size, your PBX file size gets increased, right? And direct query, the data remains in the source, queried in real time. So as I said, the data will be in source, but the queries will go and fetch the results. You will visualize the results, right? So in live connection, you connect to the model, no data import. Here also no data import in direct query as well. Performance. Performance is pretty fast in import mode. Out of all three, if you have the right resources, import mode will be very fast because it has everything in local. It can compute and give the results, right? And this will be slower because it depends on the source. It has to send queries to source has to execute, and it has to send back, right? And again, live connection performance depends on the source. The kind of, if you have a good analysis service, right? So it process fast. It's just like a import only. Import, you depend on the Power BI services, Power BI service resources. In live connection, it based on the model that you choose, right? It's based on the platform that is hosted. Okay, and that source has to execute the data again, so it depends on the source resources. Okay, data refresh and schedule, you can schedule your data, like if you import your data, you can schedule it, right? Yesterday when we were discussing, so we built a report. If we frequently want to update that, we'll schedule the refresh, right? And it will automatically update if you want to it update, right? For data freshness, if you want to have the latest data, you're going to schedule it and it's going to work. And in direct query, no need to schedule. There is no point of scheduling, right? It's always real. It always queries your source and gets the results. Okay. And live connection, it's also always up to date, real time connection to the model. If your model is not up to date, it will not be up to date, right? If your model is up to date, this live connection data will be up to date, right? And data set size limited by the Power BI capacity. If you have a P1 capacity, so if you have 16 GB RAM, you can only publish to some extent of the data, right? Because it can only process 16 GB. Even if you deploy a bigger version of file, bigger version of report, it can't process because it have a limited capacity that is related to the premium capacity, right? And here it's limited by the source. If you want to consume 100 GB of data or 200 GB of data, right? It will definitely be slow, and that should have that much size and RAM, or I mean computing capabilities to compute that huge data, right? And again, it also depends on the source because your computing depends on the source, right? And modeling capabilities, modeling changes. Since you are bringing different entities and you're going to get them all local, right? You are going to get the data import, you are getting the cache of the data. You have unlimited choices. You can build model, you can create relationship, you can write calculations, you can do anything. Okay, and anything and everything. And if you compare to direct query, there are few limitations with direct query. It can't handle complex transformations, right? Few of the sources can't do few transformations. If you take columns from example, which I was showing in session 2, right? We splitted the store ID, store 103. We just split it by columns from example. You don't get that option in direct query, right? That's done by the Power BI intelligence. So that is available in import mode, but not in direct query or live connection. You will have limited capabilities here in terms of modeling. And live connection, you have no choice. You have to use the existing model. As I said, we are going to connect to the predefined models. There is no choice of building our own model. Okay. There are few native measures we can create for formatting and in live connection as well, but no calculations, no bigger calculations or no changes to the model. Use cases. I'll come to the use cases at the end. And before that, let's talk about few other things as well, which they are covered indirectly, but I would like to highlight once again. Data volume, as I said, your source has that much capabilities. Okay, And there is one interesting limitation in direct query. Whenever you send source, right, if your source retrieves more than 100 million, it's not going to work. What does I mean that? Let's say in direct query, you want to get the count of all the transactions, count of transactions, right? It is a scalar value. Though your fact table has 100 million rows, okay, it's gonna hit on the database fact table and it's gonna get the count as 100 million. It may take time, right? It may take time because there is a huge number of source. It has to scan all the rows to get the count, right? Maybe distinct count. You want to get the unique number. Out of 100 million, 98 million are unique, right? To get this 98 million, it has to scan the data and it has to check what are the distincts in this table, right? So it will take time. Okay, assume it like you have a few balls in a basket. Few of them are red, few of them are blue. Okay, so red, 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 blue, blue. Okay, how much time you take? Maybe 5 seconds to sort them and separate them, right? To if I ask you to get the unique counts, how many have unique? Two unique. One is a blue, one is a red, right? If you have these kind of balls in a big room, in a 15 by 20 feet room, you have all the balls in place, and there are different balls, different color of balls. If you have to get, if you want to tell the distinct counts, you have to see everything, right? Whatever there is in a room, there could be one ball left at the bottom with a black color. You never know. You will definitely take more time, right? Because it's a big room, you have to search for huge number of balls, so you will take more time. Same for database as well. If there are more rows, it will take more time, right? So it may take more time, but it will get the results. Okay. Let's say in India, it has 50 million transactions. For Australia, there are 50 million transactions. Let's see. Now, I want to get all the transactions related to India. What is output? Output is going to be the 50 million. I have to show 50 million in Power BI, right? I have to get the 50 million as a results. In this case, it's only single value, one value. It's a scalar value. It has to show 98 million. That's it. It's a scalar value. It may take time, but it will not fail. It will get the results. It may take 1 minute, it may take 2 minutes based on your source, but this will fail. So, in direct query, you can't fetch your results if the data is more than 1 million. Okay, so that's the default setting we have, and you can increase to some extent, but that will collapse your service, right? If you have more millions of data, I don't suggest it personally. And live connection, it's again limited by capabilities. And transformations, as I said, you have everything in Power Query. Yesterday we transformed the data, right? We unpivoted, we deleted some columns, we splitted one column. So everything is available in Power Query for import mode. Here, only limited transformations. We already discussed this, right? And no transformations. You can't connect. You can't, because it's a pre-built model. You can't do anything there. And refresh data. If you want to refresh your data, maximum 48 times you can do if you go with import mode, and that too with a premium capacity license. If you have a per user licenses like a pro license or something, you can only do 8 times, and this is a maximum time with the ultimate license. Okay, and there's no refresh concept again here, real time, and it real time based on the model source refresh. You can see, you can be careful with this word source refresh. Is it live? Yes, it is, but in correlation with your source. If your source updated, you will see that data. If a source is old, if a source is not updated regularly, you will see that data also. Okay. And calculations supports every calculation. Even you can write complex calculations. And here you have limited DAX functionalities. Okay. And let's take one simple example, calculated columns, right? If you want to create a new column, you can't create it because your data is not in Power BI. It's in source, right? Here you can create it because your data is available natively in Power BI. You can create new columns if you want to. And you can't do anything here. Aggregations, okay? If you want to aggregate your data, you can do here. Here you can do here, but you have to do at source, right? You can't do it here. If it in import, you can build the data in Power BI, and you can go to Power Query, and you can do the aggregations there. Okay, so let me show you one example. So not example, maybe if you go to Power Query, right, you see the options here. You see the group by option right here, which is disabled because we don't have any data. You see the group by function, right? With this you can build aggregate tables, right? In direct query you can't do because your data is not available, and we can't do anything here. Data source support, I already covered it. You can connect to every data source. You can connect to the data source which have some computing capabilities and execute queries, only primarily used in analysis services and multi-dimensions and Power BI data sets. I think we can connect to SAP warehouses as well, but I'm not sure in live connection. And model size, as I said, it's limited by the capabilities and data size in Power BI. I mean, Power BI premium capacities, and no constraint on the size, right? Because and it's only concerned about the performance. You can work on any data, but it has to be your source has to have that much capabilities to execute, and limited by the sources, right? Model size and capacity. So I think I covered everything. So use cases, you can for smaller, even medium to large, you can use it. If you have some premium capacities like P3 or P4, you can use this, no problem. Okay. And if you want to connect to the existing models or cubes, right? Tabular cubes or multi-dimensional cubes. So this is the best one. And as I said, you can connect to the large datasets in direct query, get real-time updates, but be mindful of the resources you have. Okay. So that's a detailed comparison between these three, and I will walk you through the demo. Let's go and connect to few sources and see how we can connect. As I said, each source will require different details. If we take our layman's example, which we discussed, DVD versus Amazon Prime, DVD you need the physical copy, right? Like Excel, you need the Excel file. If you select Excel file, Excel workbook, the moment it asks you, okay, show me that Excel file, you should have this Excel file. Otherwise, you can't connect, right? So you can just click here, open, it will come to your Power BI. Let's connect to SQL Server now. Let's connect to Azure SQL, which is one of the popular source within Microsoft Stack. So when I connect to Excel, it directly asks the local address of the Excel file. It just went to my local and was searching for Excel files, right? It's asking me to select the Excel file like this, right? It opened in my local and it's asking me to connect to Excel file. To which Excel file it can connect. Okay, if I take a Azure SQL, it will ask a different details. It asks me authentication. Okay, so if you see here, it is asking me for the server ID and database, right? So let me copy, and if you see the advanced options, you can write the SQL statements. You no need to connect directly to the source or complete data. Let me give one example for that. Okay, so let's say you have a fact table. Okay, you have a country column and all the other column attributes. It has India, it has Australia, it has USA, blah 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 blah. If you want the data only related to India, you don't need to get all the tables, right? You can write a statement like a select all from this table where country equal to India. This is a SQL query, by the way. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. So you can query the database and get the results. Okay. Like how you have the programming language to code, you have the query language to query and get the data. So I only concerned about India data. So I can write these kind of statements here and get only India data. Okay. And second option is I can go to Power Query. I can get the data. I can go to Power Query. Here I can filter. Yesterday we filtered out few null values, right? In session 2 we filtered out some null values and some unwanted data. You can filter in that way. Okay. And which one is preferable? So this option 1 is doing at source and second one is at a Power BI level or Power Query level. Which one is fast? This one is fast. Why? You are already filtering data. If every country has 10 million, you are filtering and you are only getting 10 million to Power BI, right? So if you do these options, if you get everything into Power BI, you have to get 30 million and then you have to filter 10 million, right? You have to bring everything and filter on top of that. It will definitely take time. So one simple trick is whenever you do transformation, any changes, right? Do do all the things, all transformations, anything, all the things as close as to the source. Do near to the source. Okay. If you have a possibility to cut down the data at source, you can cut down there. That's the best option. If you don't have the capabilities, like if you take Excel, you can't cut it down in Excel, right? You have to manually delete it. In those cases, you can leverage Power BI, Power Query, right? You can get it to Power Query and trim it there. Okay, that's one quick suggestion. And let's move back and let's connect to the Azure SQL database. Okay, so this is the connection string that I have, and if I give that and database name, this is the database name, and it is asking me to connect in import or direct query. I'll connect in import mode now and I'll connect to direct query in some time. If I click OK, it's taking to the server, this server, and it is showing me all the tables. If this server has multiple databases, right, it will show that as well. I have one more example for that. I'll walk you through. Let's say I'm just selecting this restaurant analysis, and again we have two options: transform data and load. Right? Transform data is the Power Query we have seen. This one, right? So we can get it. We imported the data, right? And let me load it. Okay, so I did load the data. I should see the data. Okay. So sorry for the inconvenience. Yeah. So I can see the data and I can model the data as well, right? Here I can go, I can create measures and I can do anything, right? Okay. And let's connect the same in live connection. Okay. I will delete this model and I'll also, and if you want to clear the passwords and all, right, you can come here. It will show all the sources that you connected. This is one thing I connected, right? So I'll just delete it and I'll connect it from scratch. Get data, Azure, Azure SQL. I need to give the server address, server name, and then the database name. and I'll select direct query now. So if when you log in, it will ask the prompt. So if you're working for an organization, right, you can do the Azure Active Directory authentication, which is Microsoft authentication. I'll do database authentication now. That's the username. And now it is asking, I'm just connecting again. I'm just gonna directly load. Now you see on the left hand side, you don't see the data view. You can just have this, and then you can see the model, right? If you hover here, it will show you what is the mode. Okay, so let me go back to here and let's do a quick comparison with what we got. If you notice here, right? So let me zoom in a bit. So if you notice here in direct query, when we connect with direct query, the icon, right? It's a continuous blue icon. That's an indication that it could be either live connection or direct query. Okay, and when you hover here, it will tell you in which mode it is connected. It is connected in a direct query mode. And on the left hand side, you can see you don't see the data view because Power BI doesn't have the data view. You don't have the data here, right? So if you see, you have only report pane and the modeling pane, right? Modeling section, and you don't have the data section. If you look at the direct query, I mean import mode, there's no blue thing on top, right? So it is imported, and you can see all the three sections. And if you want to view the data, you can go to data view like this. So you can see the data. You can see what is the data that you brought in, right? You can see all the data. Whereas in direct query, you don't see the data, right? You don't see the data. Data is with the source, and you can build the result. You can build, and you have the report pen. You can build in either ways, in either modes, right? So that's one thing. And let me go back to the Power BI desktop. So this is where how you can connect in a direct query. So if let me try to import one more table from mm, 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 Snowflake. Snowflake is again a popular connector. It's a cloud-based service. And let me connect to Snowflake. If you see Snowflake, it is asking you for the server. So like how SQL was asking, SQL, Azure SQL was asking, and it was asking for the warehouse name. It asked the, if you remember the Azure SQL, it was asking for the database name. When you expand, you have the SQL statement same in Azure SQL, but here you see different options. Okay, so for one database, if there are multiple roles, right? Some could be user, some could be admin, some could be have access to limited data. Based on the role they have, their data will be restricted, right? So here, what is the role that you are connecting, and it is asking lots of details, right? There are different additional options, and all of them are optional here. So if you have them, you can give it, otherwise you can ignore. Let me try to connect to Snowflake. We just need to bring a copy until HTTPS is how you access the Snowflake in browser. So you know this internet protocol. So you just need it from here, right? Whatever starts after double slash. Okay, and warehouse, which warehouse I'm trying to connect, this one. Okay, and once I click OK, it'll just go to, and since I'm connecting it second time, it's not asking me. Otherwise it will ask a prompt like a SQL server. You have to enter your username and password, and then it will connect to you. And I can bring any data here. I can bring uh, let me bring the same restaurant data and load. Is asking direct query. Yes, direct query only. So it's giving you a prompt that when you add a secondary source, information from one source might be included in queries. We discussed it, right? So it's giving the prompt. I'm okay. I'm just clicking OK, right? And if you go to model view, you can see this indicates that these sources are different. If you hover here, you can see the direct query, right? And if you want, you can create the relationships as well. You can do whatever you want. You can bring different tables from different things and you can build a model here. Okay, so this is allowing you to build the models. If you take a country, right? See, it may take time, but it will, because it's a two different sources, right? And still, you see, it's saying many to many and same. It's still allowing you to create the model, build the relationship, right? So let me connect again in a live connection. So far we have seen two things. One is import mode for Excel and import mode for SQL Server, and direct query for SQL Server and Snowflake. Let's connect live one for one report. Let me open a blank report. So I'll use the same data set that we published yesterday. Where is it? So we published this model, right? So I will use this model and connect live. Okay, let's try to open. Yeah, and there's one interesting option. If you see at Platform, there's a folder option. I'll walk you through that as well. Okay, let's explore the folder option before that. Let's say you are building reports for small scale businesses, right? They can't afford more space. They can't afford. Let me delete one of these. Okay, or let me close it. So let's say you are doing a reporting for a small superstore or a small store, okay? So where they can't afford databases and all, right? And still you have to build the report and automate the refresh, right? Let's say I have a small store, okay? Uh, Maybe I'm running a very small store, okay? Maybe one store. So I still want to build some report. I still want to build some Power BI report on top of it. So what I'm getting, how I'm collecting data, it's all in Excel. I'm collecting data in Excel, and I want to automate this report with minimal support, right? I can't afford any supporting, right? I can't afford a resource because I'm running a small business. I can't afford huge money, right? If you want to build these kind of reports, and folder is one big option, one good option for you. Every day you can put one file in a folder, okay? You can build the data on top of it, okay? And in tomorrow, if it is a day one, two, tomorrow you can just put the file, day three file here. You can refresh it. It will pick it from the folder and will update the report. right? So just put the file in this folder, refresh. Click on refresh button. That's it. It's that simple. It's not allowing me. One second. I'm trying to. For some reason, it's not allowing me. I'm reopen the Power BI desktop, relaunch it. Okay, so this is one of the popular option if you wanna connect or automate a small scale business, right? So yeah, let me go back. So it's open now. So we were trying to connect to live connection, right? I'll do the live connection and come back to the folder option. With that, we can wrap this session. Uh, 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 what is that? Live connection. So I'll go to Power Platform, Microsoft Fabric one. There are semantic models, right? So Power BI semantic models. Once I log in, connect. So how does it getting this model? Because of this login. I log in with this account and it went to that source and searching for all the models that are available there. So let me get that fabric model, semantic model, connect. So I have only one report, right? I have only one data set which I published yesterday, DH demo. So I'll select that and it will connect. Okay. If I go here, oh, what does it have? Okay, yeah. So yesterday we built a model, right? If you connect, we have the store managers, we created RLS, and between transaction and product details, it brought that model. And if you remember, we have a total sales as well, right? So if you see here, if I go here, it's not allowing me. It's not allowing me to go to transform data because you can't do it. It is asking me to convert into a direct query connection. If I want to access this, it is asking me to connect the live connection to a direct query because direct query, I mean, in live connection, you can't do anything. So it is asking me to convert to direct query. I don't convert it. I'll just keep it as it is. And you see here, right? I can't add a new source. If I select Excel, it's asking me to connect to direct query because live connection doesn't support. So it is asking me to switch to direct query and connect, right? So I can't connect to any other source. If I connect to live connection, I have to stick to this model. I can't add any more tables. That's a live connection. Okay. And if I try access the Power Query, you see right, it's throwing me an error. It has very limited capabilities. We just have to report. We just have to build the reports. That's it. Right. You have to build the reports. And you have no option uh, to choose anything. Right. You can build the reports and use it. So, and you can write some measures for formatting. If you want to format it, it will still allow few measures to write, right? It's allow you new measure for formatting or simple calculations. Apart from that, it doesn't allow anything. That's a live connection. And let me show you the folders example. Blank report again. I hope it works now. It should open. Wait. Yeah. Now I'll show you the folders example. Let's say, oh, in my data, I have deleted a third file. I'll add it in some time. If I get the data more, and if I select the folder option, it will ask me to select the folder. Browse for the folders. This PC, Windows C. I put all the files in content. So once I click OK, you see right, there's a reference is adding. What is my file name? One, right? And what is the source? Excel. So it's adding that name. It's adding the extension details as well. So I'll just combine those files and load it directly. Okay. So let's give it a moment. Allow it some time. I don't know why it got stuck. Maybe let me reload it. Oh, it's allowing me to reload as well. Okay. So meanwhile, let's summarize our discussion and it will load. It'll open, I think. So which mode you need to choose, right? Choosing the right connection mode is very, very important. Right? It's very, very important for any report. If you choose a wrong connection, it will impact your report. It will impact your report adversely. And it comes of no use, right? So if I have huge million of data, if I have 100 million of data, if I do a direct query reporting with lots of visuals in it, right? So it will fire so many queries and it will take very long time. And to load this page, it may take 5 minutes. No one will have that much patience, right? Every time, if you change a simple slicer, it could take 4 to 5 minutes. So it comes of no use. Even though you work, even though you build this report, you don't consume, right? So for every time if it loads 5 minutes, what kind of analysis we can do? We can't do any analysis with that, right? With those kind of reports. So you have to be mindful while choosing the connectivity mode. You have to carefully select that. Otherwise, it will impact adversely and your reports fails eventually. Even with import mode, right? So you need to assess the data. And if you are doing import, you need to cut down all the unnecessary data with you. So then only you will be able to load it. Then only you will be what can I say? Then only you can this report can be efficient, right? If you are have very huge data, you don't want to host in your premium capacity, you don't want to affect your existing reports, but if you wanna still use that, go for live connection, build some analysis service models, and host your data there and get it from there, right? That's one of the option you have. So yeah, so when you choose the right connectivity mode, assess everything. What are the report requirements? Okay. How much data you are gonna build this report, right? And assess all the parameters that we discussed. What is the how real they want to see. If there is a very small data set and users want to see the real time data, then you can go for direct query, right? So you have to evaluate all the variables that we speak that we discussed so far, like these, all these, where are they? Yeah, like all these, and evaluate it carefully and choose the right connectivity mode for your reporting needs. And you shouldn't assess the current data. You should look at the future needs as well. Today your data could be 1 million. You should always build the scalable reports, right? For that, you need to assess. You need to talk to your users, sit with them, and connect with them, and ask them like what is gonna be the scope in future. So you need to evaluate carefully, before you report. You need to choose the right connectivity mode. Otherwise, your report fails. Okay, let me come back. I think it's loaded. So now, if we see the source name, it has two things, one and two, right? It got the data from two sources, and the total number of records are 198, right? So, and you can see all the data here. Now in folder, let's say now I'll just copy this and I'll go to this folder. I'll paste this. Okay, and if I come here, and so far the total number of rows are 198, and if I refresh it, boom, right, it, you see the, right, you see the count, it added the 3 extension, it added the data from 3 file as well, and the count of rows, if you see, it's 299. It brought the additional rows from 3. In this way, you can automate a small scale business. No much effort, right? You fix this standard template, they will input the data, they will throw here. And you just click a single refresh button, you get it, right? So if they want to consume in Power BI desktop, no price, zero price. No, like if they want to consume in service level, it's a minimal $10 price, right? So that's it. So that's it about the connectivity modes. And if you want to know more connections, you can go through the Microsoft documentation. I'll put the link in description. If you go there and search for the source, whatever the source you want to connect, right? It will have the detailed documentation, what details you need and how you need to access, right? So that's it for this session. I hope you like this session, and uh, see you next session. So until then, keep practicing. Don't forget to practice. Practice is the key, right? So, and feel free to comment if you have any doubts, and share this with whomever if